First thing you want to do is lay out the chains cogs down. These are Canadian rings or ring chains. They're about 1,200 pounds. You want them nice and straight and cogs down. Next thing you want to do is just drive either loader, equipment, whatever it is, straight on top of the chain, snapping at one end with a little bit exposed. And what you want to do, this is just a 3/8 20-foot chain. Rope would work. Find the chain works better. Hooking it to one end, and I'm bringing it up and over the tire, and around to the other end, without hooking the other end. If you have chain or rope left over, you want to bring it perpendicular 90 degrees out from the tire, so it's not stuck under the chain. The next thing you're going to do is just drive ahead or back up, doesn't matter which way, depends on where you stop. Every so often you want to get out, make sure the side chains are going down the sidewalls, going on nice and straight, and pull the chain or rope out the side. If it gets underneath, especially if it's a heavy chain, it's kind of a pain to get it out, but the chain will drive itself right onto the tire. Once the chain is driven onto the tire, what you're going to do, using a high lift jack or handyman style chain tightener, you kind of need something to pull the chain together, especially on heavy ones. The chain binder can work, come along, or chain fall will work. I've got used all of them before, but this one works good for rings. It's quick, doesn't get it quite as tight. There's a screw type as well, which you can see, just hang that on and put your clevises through. Another little tip is when you put your clevises through, or shackles depending on where you're from, the clevis, one side's threaded, one side's open. Make sure you're putting them on so that the open side is out, and it's a lot easier to get them started. As soon as you get the front of the chains tight as you can get them, you may have to remove a whole section if they're ice, or in this case ring, an entire ring. These ones were just taken off so I could get through a field without destroying it, so I knew right where these ones needed to be. We're going to move to the inside of the tire, the inside or where it's harder to work. We're going to get that as tight as possible first. Now that the inside's connected, we're going to move to the outside. It's a lot easier to work out there, so you can set that last one really tight. That's going to be start working one way or the other, and next thing you know, they fall off, and you're dragging on the axle, and you gotta fight to get them off. So make sure whatever is on the inside, you're matching to the outside. Sometimes it's helpful to, if you can't quite get the chain where you need it, you're going to drive forward and back up with the chain tightener on, get out, tighten a little more, forward and back, obviously making sure it's not going to dig into the ground or anything, and that really helps work the chain back together where you need it. So it's sometimes a fight to get chains that tight, but tight chains gives you a lot more traction. It helps from the tire wearing, it helps from the chains wearing. You really want to get them as tight as you can. A lot of people will say, well, if you really want to get chains tight, you need to let all the air out of the tire, and that certainly works. Let the air out of the tire, get it tight, and then put air back in the tire. The problem is those are old tires, old Schrader valves, old tubes, out the woods there. It's just more likely to have problems, so sometimes it's easier just to get it as tight as you can. You can see here I've switched to my screw type chain tightener. The high lift jack version is still on there. I had a little bit more I needed to go. Instead of resetting, I just threw the screw type on there. It's a little bit slower, but it does get it a lot tighter. If you didn't have these things, you could probably use a come along or a chain binder, and I've done that in the past. Now that everything's lined up and put on, make sure you tighten the crevices. I always try to retighten them, run them for the day, retighten them, and leave in a couple of days, check them. I've known some guys before to tack weld them so they don't loosen up, but I've found that when you need to take them off, you're going to need a grinder, you're going to be fighting to take them off, so I just make sure they're tight.